Hey Jews, just sitting in my sukkah learning Torah, and I was reading again the Malbim about Bereshit, learning about the creation of the world and what our rabbis and sages throughout time have been able to teach us about that and why that's important. But as I was doing that, I was thinking deeply on the subject of light and darkness and reality, as I often do. Reality, according to the Torah, is 5-dimensional. 3 are physical, 1 is spiritual, and 1 is time. And what I was thinking about was the connection between the light, the darkness, dark, and time. Okay, so there's a very interesting connection between these variables, and they are dependent upon each other. So space and time, and the spiritual, which we'll just call light, okay, or the spiritual. So I'm not going to get into this in this class, but I did want to share with you what I was learning, and that it turns out that the themes of dark, light, and time, along with the roles of Israel, Ishmael, and Edom, Esav, carry very deep significance in Jewish thought, Torah interpretation, and mysticism. And these are found in the Talmud, the Kabbalah, and the Midrash. And light and darkness and time, symbolism in Judaism. So we'll start with that. The light in Jewish thought symbolizes revelation, truth, divine wisdom, and redemption. It represents the clarity that comes from the closeness to God. The Torah is often described as or, light, such as in Proverbs 6:23, for the commandment is a lamp and the Torah is light. Darkness symbolizes concealment, confusion, sin, or exile. However, in Jewish mysticism, darkness is not inherently evil. It just simply represents a state where the divine is hidden. And that is Olam Hazeh. Olam is from the root word of Alem or whatever, and that is concealed. So it represents a state where the divine is hidden, and the challenge is to reveal God within it. Time in Jewish tradition reflects a dynamic process of creation, exile, and redemption. Jewish time cycles, with things such as Shabbat and the holidays, represent opportunities to move from darkness to light, or from exile to redemption, or from sin to closeness to God. And actually, I've made several different videos discussing all of those things, the importance of the time element in our reality, the opportunities that these holidays and the Moadim and all of the different times afford us as Jews, as a nation of Israel, to get closer to God. Okay, so I'm not going to go into that here, but together, the light, darkness, and time mirror the soul's journey, the nation's historical challenges, and the cosmic movement from spiritual exile to redemption, culminating in the Messianic era. So through the Torah, and we're going to be starting again to read it from the beginning, Bereshit, coming up after the holidays, we know from the Torah the whole story of creation from the beginning, when God said, let there be light, and what that means. What is light? What is time? What is our physical world? What is the universe? What does all that stuff mean? And where is it going? What's the purpose? We are going towards something. We are going to what is called the Yichud. We are going to a time, to a point in space and time, where everything eventually is going to be again spiritual. Okay, I'm not going to get into this again, but that's right in the very beginning. Bereshit, when God says, let there be light, this light is the way that it entered our reality and what happened, and that it became evening. So the light entered all of a sudden, and then it was withdrawn, and it was evening, and then it was boker yom echad. Whatever, something like that, okay? Which is basically tells us the whole story here. So that, like I said, got me thinking about Israel, the nation of Israel. We are the ones that received the Torah and the covenant with God. Let's explain, okay? So there's light, there's dark, and there's time. And together, light, darkness, and time mirror, like we said, the soul's journey, because here also the physical is our body, if we're talking just about our lives, spiritual is the soul, and the time is the time of our life, our lifespan. And we all have something to do here, especially the nation of Israel. We have to understand why every day we thank God for making us a Jew in this reality. What does that mean? It's basically something spiritual. So when we culminate in the Messianic era, and by the way, we're here, 5,785, Happy New Year, Jews, and we're only going to this. We are in the end times, and again, most of my channel talks about all this stuff and what's happening in our reality, but I want to go deeper. I want to explain what I'm learning in terms of what this means. So what is the Messianic era? What is the redemption? That's all what our whole reality is moving towards. There is a directionality to this. There is an end to the expansion of the universe, okay? Because space is expanding, and that is allowing for time, because that's allowing for this light, and it's all connected, which I'm, again, not going to explain here. But what I want to explain is how Israel, Ishmael, and Edom are the spiritual archetypes and what the roles are. So, like we said, light, dark, and time. Light is the revelation of truth and divine wisdom and the redemption. Darkness is the concealment, the confusion, the sin, or the exile. And time is creation, exile, and redemption. Okay, we have the whole story in the Torah. Creation, exile, and redemption. And together we're moving towards the Messianic era. So Israel, in Jewish tradition, Israel, Ishmael, and Edom are not just nations, or not just people that were in the Torah, but are there also spiritual archetypes. Each represents forces within history, human nature, and the cosmic struggle between light and darkness. Israel, the light bearer and the covenant holder. Israel, who are the descendants of Yaakov Avinu, who became Israel, have other classes on that, are not, so Israel is the descendants of Yaakov Avinu, represent the covenant with God and the mission to bring the divine light and wisdom into the world. Israel's struggles involve revealing God's presence even in times of darkness and exile. The Jewish people are tasked with what's called tikkun olam, repairing the world, and revealing the unity of God within the diversity of creation. And again, this goes back to how the world was created and what we can understand from that. If it was created yesh me'ein, if it was created all with the first words, or needed all the 10 words and all of that stuff, which we're gonna, like I said, again, be gonna start learning the Torah from the beginning. So it'd be good if you started learning to understand our reality and our time, which are the end times. So the Jewish people are tasked with the tikkun olam and revealing the unity within the diversity of creation. Light and time align with Israel's journey. Our journey through time, okay? Israel strives to bring the messianic light leading from darkness of the exile to the dawn of redemption. Ishmael, sorry about this smudges here. Ishmael was the son of Abraham with Hagar. Okay, so when we look at our history, and especially the history of the nation of Israel, we know that we come from Abraham and Sarah. They only had one son, Yitzchak, and and Abraham had other sons with Hagar, and then later with Keturah. So we're talking about Ishmael, the firstborn, and we're talking about the firstborn also of Yitzchak, who is Esav. Okay? So Ishmael represents the spiritual impulse without the full guidance of the Torah. According to the Torah, Ishmael is Abraham's son through Hagar, and he receives a blessing, but not the covenant. Okay? These are laws by which we need to live by and perfect ourselves in order to be like a perfect person like Yaakov Avinu was. He was shalem. Okay? He was perfect, shalem. Same root as shalom, peace. Okay, so what the Torah laws do, if we live by them, if we learn them, if we perfect ourselves, if we practice Judaism, because the Torah is the guidebook, okay, and Judaism is the practice. It is actually a spiritual practice to perfect your soul, because the soul is what is connected to God, and that you are, when you are a corrected human being, when you are a perfected human being, when you perfect your midot, your characteristics, and you master your emotions, so you're not led by them, you're not led by your ego, you're not led by your emotions, you become a more perfected person. And we know that it's fully obtainable to be 100% perfected person. Sarah Imenu lived every single day of her life perfect, says the Torah. So it's possible if you just work at it, if you follow these guidelines and practice Judaism. And then you will be B'Tselem Elokim. You will be a perfected man, not a medaber chai. Not a chai medaber. Okay, so there's different levels of consciousness. I have a video I made a long time ago called Joy in the Time of Chaos. I think that's a good video to watch. But you know, we have things like that, where the different types of categories, mineral, in terms of increasing consciousness, plant, animal, speaker, and Israel. Actually, I'm not going to go too much into this, but this is increasing levels of consciousness, okay? So, chai is an animal. That's chai. Medaber is speaker. So are you an animal that has the faculty of speech? Are you an animal that's been able to figure out how to speak? Or are you a medaber chai? You're a something more. You are a living soul. You are be'etzem, a perfected being, right? B'Tselem Elokim, in the image of God, who is living. Medaber chai. That's the goal, Israel. That's the goal. These are the guidelines. This is the practice. Okay? So when we know our history and whatever, we know our purpose in life. And we know, as we're talking about, that Ishmael is representing here a spiritual potential. But because Ishmael did not get the covenant, did not get the Torah laws, lives not like a perfected human, and I'm talking about nations now, but also, like I said, the spiritual archetype, is we're told that he was Pere Adam. Pere Adam, which is like a chai medaber, an animal that can speak. That's a dangerous thing to be. You're an animal, but with the faculty of speech and communication and organization, Pere Adam. But what we need to be and what we can be, because we have the Torah laws, we have the blessing and the covenant and the Torah laws. We can be more than that. We can be Medaber Chai. We can be Israel. That is a level of consciousness that we can obtain if we perfect ourselves, if we control our emotions, if we practice Judaism, if we understand what we're doing here. Okay? But Ishmael did not get that information. They got a blessing because they came from Abraham, who God loved. They have a blessing, and so they have a spiritual potential. They love. The Ishmael's descendants, often identified with Arab nations, okay, reflect a passion for God and prayer, but without the structure of the Torah's wisdom and commandments. We know that the way the information comes, wisdom, understanding, and then knowledge. And I talk about this in a lot of my other classes, so I'm not going to get into it right now. But the proper way, for the nation of Israel, the Jews, who have the wisdom of God, and who all throughout history, we've had our smartest geniuses of the nation of Israel. Everyone knows the Jews are smart. Processing that for us, in understanding it for us, and then explaining it to us so that we too may know what is in the Torah and how to act and how to live as a Jew. Okay, but where do we obtain our knowledge? Where do you obtain your beliefs, Jews? Why do you think it's okay to be a Jew without following any of the Torah laws? You are supposed to be perfecting your tselem Elokim. You're supposed to be perfecting your soul via the guidebook. Else you could just be an animal with the faculty of speech, like Ishmael. But like we said, the force of the spiritual potential rests in this nation. So the Arab nations, and I guess Islam and whatnot, they have a passion for God and they have a passion for prayer, but without the structure of the Torah's wisdom and commandments. And by the way, they did not get this connection to actual God, like we're told in Bereshit, the one that made this reality. You know, so they're talking even about something else. But anyway, in the Kabbalah, Ishmael represents a spiritual struggle of faith, where there's a longing for God, but also a risk of fanaticism or misdirection, because they don't have the Torah's guidance. Light and darkness play a role here. Ishmael's descendants hold a portion of truth, prayer, and monotheism, but struggle in darkness due to the absence of Torah's full illumination. Time brings opportunities for reconciliation and refinement. Edom comes from Esav, the firstborn, the twin brother of Yaakov Avinu. Okay, Esav and Edom, the descendants of Esav, Yaakov's twin brother, symbolize material power. Okay, more about this physical material world. Esav, Babylon, Rome, all those, the descendants of Esav symbolize material power, conquest, and worldly success. In Jewish tradition, Edom is often associated with Rome and later Western civilization. Edom's focus on the physical world creates a tension between power and spirituality. Edom represents a concealment of divine light, where the material world becomes an end in of itself. Darkness in Edom. Edom's energy is one of concealment. Okay, Olam Hazeh, using physical power without recognizing the divine. The task is to bring light into this darkness, transforming the physical into a vessel for the holy. Light and darkness and historical spiritual role of Israel, Ishmael, and Edom. Let's talk about it. The Torah sages see Israel, Ishmael, and Edom as playing different roles in the historical and spiritual journey of humanity. Israel represents the force of Torah and the divine light, illuminating the path to the ultimate redemption, as we discussed. Ishmael represents spiritual yearning, but this light is incomplete without the structure of the Torah, leading to periods of spiritual confusion and darkness. Edom represents the force of concealment and materialism, which must be refined to reveal the divine light hidden within the physical world. The messianic role and the future unification of light and dark. Jewish mystics in the Kabbalah teach that the tension between Israel, Ishmael, and Edom reflect the struggle between the light and the dark throughout history. However, this struggle is not eternal. In the Messianic era, the light will penetrate even the darkest places, unifying these different forces. Ishmael will recognize the full truth of God through the Torah. Edom will be transferred, and material power will serve holiness. Israel will be restored to its role as the bearer of divine light, ushering in an era where the world reaches its spiritual potential. The prophet Isaiah in 61:3, 1-3, I guess, speaks of this vision. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn. In Jewish thought, light and darkness are not just physical states, but represent spiritual revelation and concealment. Israel, Ishmael, and Edom correspond to the different spiritual archetypes. Israel, again, is a bearer of divine light, tasked with revealing God within history and time. Ishmael is a spiritual yearning that lacks the full structure of the divine wisdom, symbolizing incomplete light or misguided faith. Edom represents a material, power and darkness, where divine light is concealed but waiting to be revealed. Together, these forces interact throughout time, shaping the journey towards the redemption. Jewish tradition teaches that in the Messianic era, these opposites, light and dark, Israel, Ishmael, and Edom, will be reconciled, bringing peace and spiritual clarity to the world. So, very interesting when we put it all together. And again, we need to look at the Torah and all of the levels. It's four-dimensional. We need to learn everything as much as we can from as many Torah sages as possible that kept this straight and narrow path, that didn't stray, not one letter, not omitting anything and not adding anything to it. Judaism is perfect. The Torah is perfect and beautiful. And when we learn it, we become more enlightened and we understand how we're supposed to live our lives. That we are supposed to perfect ourselves. That we are supposed to pay attention to the spiritual. Because at the end of this reality, there will no longer be any physical or anything or any time. It will all be spiritual. So I hope you're enjoying Sukkot and getting ready to start learning the Torah from the beginning again. After, of course, Simchat Torah, where we will celebrate the fact that the Jews, that the nation of Israel got these Torah laws and the guidelines and the practice to perfect ourselves and become a more elevated, conscious creation that is called Israel.